Welcome to QuickBites, public speaking tips and techniques you can digest in 5 minutes or less. Here's your host, the author of The Captivating Public Speaker, Peter George.
Do you use slides in your presentations? If so, do you use them in a way that helps your listeners immediately understand their meaning and how they support your talk? Or do they confuse your audience or otherwise distract from your talk? In this episode, you're going to hear a few ideas that'll make your next presentation more engaging and, yes, even more professional looking. First, reading from slides. You've been there. The speaker begins his presentation and brings up the first slide. From that point on, he turns his back on the audience and reads from the slides, maybe occasionally turning back to look at the people who took time out of their busy schedules to hear him speak. Reading from slides might take the prize for being the worst way to utilize a visual deck in a presentation. There are just so many problems with this, including the speaker prepared a written form of his talk, but didn't want to, know how to, or even intend to deliver it in the form of an actual presentation. As a result, it's devoid of human interaction, the essence of an engaging talk that serves the audience. Another problem with this is it shows disrespect for the audience. People took the time to be there, but the presenter didn't take the time to create a proper, engaging presentation. And yet another problem is that people can read to themselves more quickly than the presenter can read aloud. So the audience members get to the end of the slide and think, come on, flip to the next slide. And this is exactly when people say, he could have just sent us a PDF and saved us all a lot of time. Reading presentations from a slide is the equivalent of reading an essay and giving everybody a copy so they can read it to themselves while you read it out loud. Some people think this has some benefit, but it's not what a speaker does. Imagine if back in the day when speakers traveled the world doing readings, that Charles Dickens stood on the stage to deliver a passage from The Christmas Carol, and everyone in the audience was reading along, not looking at him. It wouldn't have happened. At this point, you might be thinking that I'm not a fan of slides. The fact is, I believe great visuals enhance most talks. The problem is that not everyone uses great visuals. I also believe that having no slides is better than having bad slides. Another idea? Leave the lights on. Don't lower the lights unless your slides have fine detail that's critical for your audience to see. Usually, there's no need to put your audience, or you for that matter, in the dark. Perhaps if the lights are dimmable, they could be turned down a little bit, but not much. And yet another idea is use black slides. Let's say you're talking about apples and you put up a slide of a shiny red Fuji. Then you change the topic to oranges, but don't have a visual for oranges. You could, and many people do, leave the slide of the apple showing until you get to a topic that has a corresponding slide. But leaving the apple on the screen when you're speaking about something else doesn't really make sense when you think about it. Instead of causing confusion or looking like an amateur, use a black slide when the topic has no slide. It's that simple, it really is. Then, when you get to the topic that has a corresponding visual, you show the appropriate slide. Consequently, you'll only have an image on the screen when that image supports what you're saying. It makes sense, doesn't it? And it'll make sense to your audience too. So there are 3 simple ideas you can implement the next time you use slides. Next week, you'll hear several more.
Thank you for devouring another episode of QuickBites. Be sure to tune in again for more public speaking tips and techniques. And remember to use the link in the show notes to go to Amazon and check out Peter's acclaimed book, The Captivating Public Speaker.